He's as sweet as he wants to be. Um, I happen to know for a fact that he has a mental disability. I don't know if there are very many people who know him that know this. Unless you actually know him, I don't think other people realize it. So when he does certain things, I watch people make comments and they're laughing and they're cracking jokes and they're talking about how crazy he is and how stupid he's acting. And they think he's putting on and it's supposed to be funny, funny, ha ha for the camera. But that's actually his personality. That is how he has always been. It is who he is. And while supposed grown folks, because ain't nothing in here under the age of 18. Supposed grown folks, adults, are talking about him and talking to him like we were back in high school. Like we were back in grammar school. Like we back on the playground. You know, it would do a lot of us some good. And I include myself in that because there are times when I will have a fit and go off the deep end and I can say some things. It would do a lot of us some good to learn when to be hushed. Something that I'm sure all of you have heard at some point as children is if you don't have anything nice to say, you don't have anything good to say, just be hushed. Don't say anything at all. Or what my mom used to tell me is if you're about to say something, say it in your head first. And if it makes you cringe, just saying it in your own head, don't let it come out your mouth. Because we all know when we're about to say something and it's not going to be okay. Like when you type in those hateful messages, if you go back to reread those messages before you send them, instead of just typing them out and send and, oh, I was so funny. It was so funny. It wasn't. It wasn't funny. And it now has those of us who have common sense looking at you like there is something wrong with you. I've actually gone to people's pages that I realized that people who were making off the wall comments about a person's looks or about a person's weight or about a person's actions. And these are people who, this is just who they are. I've actually seen people make these comments and realize I'm friends with that person. Let me go block you real swift. Because this person that you're talking about is extremely sensitive and they will skip over the messages and say nothing. I can be extremely ignorant and I'm going to say something real stupid. And see, that's that whole thing where I said you have to think before you speak. I know I have a very bad habit of doing it, which is why I try to watch the things that I say. Because even though I only talk to people crazy like that when something has been said to me, it still doesn't give me the right to hit below the belt. And typically that's what people do. When you are upset, the next thing out my mouth is going to be about the rudest thing you've probably ever heard. And I'm working on me to get that in check because I can put you in your place and not have to gut punch you. So if I could give you any type of motivation this morning, it's for you to live your life every day the same way that you would want your children to live their lives. If you don't have children, the way you would want other people to live their lives. And I say it like that because of this. If I'm out here and I'm smiling and I'm handling my business and I'm doing what I need to do and I'm taking care of my kids, I'm taking care of my man, I'm taking care of my dog, I'm taking care of my health, I'm starting businesses and taking care of my community, and I am being that person that I want to be. And somebody else comes along and they see that and they decide, you know what, I was being a little hoodish, a little ignorant, a little, maybe I should step my game up a little bit. Maybe I just help that person. And I may see somebody else comes along and they're doing even better than I am. And it's like, you know what? I'm doing pretty good, but I'm still a tad bit rude. And I still don't exactly think before I speak. I could be doing a little bit better. Do you get where I'm going here? Each one of us teaches the next person. That's what we should be doing. We should be assisting and teaching the next person, and not just kids. That's where a lot of us get it twisted. We think that the only people who can learn something is children. And I know I've said this to you guys before. Just because some of us are in our 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, you don't stop learning. You never stop learning. There's always something that you can learn. There's always someone you can learn from. And for all my people who are up in a, 40s, 50s, such as myself, we got to get out of the mindset that if you're younger than me, you can't teach me anything. I can learn from anyone if that person is about their business. I have picked up some great ideas and some great tips from people who were nowhere near my age. I'm knocking on 50's door gladly, because I'm looking forward to being 50, and I'm very close. And I have gotten advice from people who were 10, 15, 20 years younger than I am. Wisdom doesn't always come with age. I know some people who are older than me who really need to be put in check. So remember to always put your best foot forward. Always put that positivity out there. Now, I'm not saying don't check somebody when it's necessary, but even when it comes to that, let's try to watch the way we check another person. Let's try to check them with knowledge. Check them with love. And if nothing else, if you don't want to do it with love and you don't want to do it with care, because you honestly do not care for that person or what that person has done, that's cool. We ain't all for everybody, and everybody ain't meant to have your love and your care. And I just believe that. I don't believe that the love that I have was meant for everybody. There's just going to be some people that I can't reach. But I can tell you what I think of you without just getting low down and gutter with it. That we have to stop, because it's not the fact that I put somebody in check that's going to come back and get me. It's the fact that while putting that person in check, I decide to talk mad crazy about like they mama and daddy and they peg leg auntie. Like, you know what I'm talking about. When you just flip out, get real ignorant, like in the middle of, and I'm going to tell you this and then I'm going to get up out your ear and go to work. But in the middle of going off on somebody, this was several years ago. And this was somebody who we never really ever argued, had disagreements at all. And in the middle of a disagreement, this individual said something to me that was so beyond stupid that I honestly to this day don't even remember half of what I said to this person. I like really just blanked out and went off. I wouldn't have remembered a good portion of this conversation at all if one of my children had not been there to witness it and remind me of what I said. And when I say taking low shots, this was somebody who was in town visiting and was on their way back home. And I actually told the person that I hope when they get on the expressway, they get hit by a 18-wheeler. Like, just straight evil. I started talking about their flat feet. I started talking about how the bad built body, just they were shaped like they mammy. Like it really got ignorant because I was that heated at what was said to me. And I usually only get that upset when my children have been drug into something. And that was basically what happened, is that in the middle of that conversation, the individual made a statement that had to do with my daughters. And I went in to the point where the individual was sitting there gripping the steering wheel and just staring out the window. And you could tell I had hurt all his feelings, all of them. Any feeling he had ever had, I hurt it. Because he was on the brink of tears by the time I stopped talking. And that's only the stuff that I could actually remember. Like I said, I honestly don't remember that conversation. I remember getting upset. And I remember the first maybe few words. And after that, nothing. I remember getting out. We were in a car. I remember getting out the car and calling my best friend and screaming into the phone and going back to the car and going off again. Still couldn't tell you what I said though. And see, that's what I'm trying to stop others from doing, as well as myself. I've worked on what I needed to work on to make sure that things like that don't happen with me, but we haven't all got there yet. And I'll never say that I'm perfect at it. There are several times where I've had to almost bite the tip of my tongue off to keep from saying certain things. But we have to at least work on it. As much as we possibly can, we have to at least try and do better. We can always do better. And I know we can all do better because I believe in every last one of us that we can do better. And just make sure that when you see it, when you see that negativity being thrown at another person, just step in and, you know what? We're not children here. This is not grammar school. This is not high school. This is not the playground. If you are on someone's videos or you're on someone's live or you're listening even to my voice, if something about me aggravates you that much, then leave. It is that simple. Just leave. If you stay around just to make negative, and I'm not talking about, criticism. There's a complete difference. If you want to critique something I said, that's different. I'm talking about just straight up hateful comments. Like, if you want to be that hateful and that low down, just leave. There is nothing keeping you here. Because if you sit through an entire one of my podcasts or an entire live that someone does on Facebook, or just to throw shots the whole time, you were here because you wanted to be seen. You were here because you were hoping you would throw a shot and get a good laugh and everybody would start talking about you and paying attention to you. You have self-esteem issues and you need to work on that. If you sat through an entire live just to throw shots at somebody, just to talk about their weight or the way they sound or the way they look, that says more about you than it does about the person you are talking about. Because the issue is not them. The issue most certainly is you. Because nobody sits through, I've gone into other people's lives and been like, yeah, this is not for me, and left. I'm not getting ready to sit through an entire life that I care nothing about unless you think there's some gossip to be had and you're trying to stay to make sure you get all the tea. So you're being nosy. Or, again, you are there because you are seeking attention and hoping that somebody will pay attention to you. Which, like I said, if that is the case, you need to go seek help. Because anytime you popping in and out of people's rooms and saying rude things just in the hopes that people will pay attention to you, that is a self-esteem issue. And trust me when I tell you, you want to work on that. Because you are going to put yourself, I just watched this happen. Somebody who kept making foul comments while this live was going, and then got cussed out. And then ignored. Because after they got cussed out, the conversation kept going with other people. Everybody else was talking to each other and talking to the person who was on live. Completely ignored this individual who came back and tried to say something else, and nobody would respond, including the person whose live we were watching. nobody will respond. Now, not only have you been ignored, but you have been thoroughly cussed out and ignored.